Hey there Junimos, how you doing? I'm your host Alph, and today we're reviewing Stardew Valley. Past viewers of mine will know that I adore this game, but I've never really made a full video talking about it. Obviously, today is the day we fixed that. I'm doing a full, in-depth review / retrospective of Stardew Valley. My plan for this channel going forward is to almost exclusively do long-form reviews like this, so let's kick off that trend right now. The first thing you'll notice with any game is its presentation, and Stardew Valley looks and sounds really excellent. I think the whole pixelated retro art style is pretty darn oversaturated at this point, but that doesn't change a thing about Stardew Valley's visuals. Even though it's pixelated, every little square looks super clean and crisp, and all the sprites and textures are delightful to look at. The game also boasts a really vibrant color palette regardless of where you are, so nothing ever looks bland or lifeless. From the grassy fields of springtime to the dead of winter to the deepest caves of the mine, Stardew Valley always manages to display a beautiful, colorful image. Stardew Valley looks great, but I think the biggest strength of its presentation is the audio. The sound design is great, with each little noise feeling just the right mix of cartoony and realistic. Actions like opening doors and walking around sound perfect, but there are also a bunch of other little fun sounds too. Every time you move something in the menu or use certain items, there's a little pop or click sound, and these make the game not only pleasant to listen to, but satisfying to listen to. I always love it when games add just the right sound effect to some action to make it really feel good to pull off, and Stardew Valley does this really well. Each little boop or kick of rumble adds such a tactile sensation to everything you do, and I really appreciate that. Forget the sound effects though, you all know I love music, and Stardew Valley has a really phenomenal soundtrack. There are a few different tracks that play during each in-game season, and they're all so beautifully composed and tonally appropriate. The springtime songs are bubbly and fresh, the summer songs sound like a hot day feels, the fall tracks are calm and cool, and the winter music is serene and beautiful. It's really impressive to me how this game's music so perfectly captures each season that it plays for. The fall music really feels like fall. If someone assigned a sound to the idea of falling leaves and a slight chill in the air, this would be it. The seasonal music is truly phenomenal. Beyond that, certain buildings and areas have their own unique tracks, and these are all equally perfect. The saloon music is a ragtime piano piece, the town's theme is an old-timey banjo tune, it's all fantastic. I could go on for much longer describing each music piece in detail, but I think you all get the idea. Stardew Valley's music is consistently wonderful to listen to, and it all fits the scenario it was written for. But that's enough about presentation, let's talk about the actual game. Stardew Valley takes place in Stardew Valley, but more specifically the game is in a place called Pelican Town. Pelican Town is a nice, quiet little village, but it's remarkably dense with character and life. The map might seem small, but it features so many buildings, NPCs, and secrets that it takes many hours to fully understand. Even while making this video, I still discovered some new stuff about Pelican Town for the first time. Before we get into details with the town itself though, let's talk about all the characters in Stardew Valley, because they're a pretty huge part of the game. There are 24 unique NPCs living in Pelican Town at the start of the game, and one of the main aspects of Stardew Valley is building a relationship with as many or few people as you want to. You strengthen your bonds by giving people gifts, and your emotional closeness to someone is conveyed by a display of hearts in the menu. Every time you give something to an NPC, an invisible relationship score is updated, and this score is directly linked to how many hearts you have with someone. What makes this especially interesting is that every character has a unique opinion of every potential gift, so you need to figure out which people like which items in order to maximize heart gain. Or if you're a normal person, you can just look it up and spam gifts on your desired friend. Anyway, becoming better friends with someone changes their dialogue when you talk to them, and you can also watch special friend cutscenes at certain heart intervals. You can even marry some of the townspeople when you level one of them up enough. If you actually take the time to befriend each character, you'll see that they all have really fleshed out personalities and backstories, so there's a lot of incentive to put time into this system. If you're like me though, you really just speedrun your way to getting a wife and don't bother with anyone else. Wait, all I have to do is give her a bunch of salad and she'll love me? If only it were that easy in real life. Okay, yeah, there's a pretty cool social system in this game, if only I cared about it as much as my dad, who fully leveled up his relationship with every character. It doesn't change anything, by the way. I really feel bad about underselling this part of the game since there's so much amazing content to discover, but I just never got super into relationships for whatever reason. I'm sure most other people loved making friends though, and one could definitely say that these characters are the backbone of Pelican Town. Speaking of Pelican Town, let's get back into some of the stuff you can do in this area. The whole game takes place here, so this is obviously where you'll do all your farming, fishing, foraging, and other stuff, but we'll get to that later. As far as the actual town side of things, the main non-social feature is the shops. Several NPCs run various stores and facilities in Pelican Town, and these are where you buy just about everything available for purchase in this game. There's a carpenter, a blacksmith, a general store to buy seeds and whatnot, and tons more I won't name here. It's nice to have these characters connected to the more gamey side of things by owning stores, but this system does lead to some problems. These shop owners are obviously, human beings, so they don't just robotically sit in their store all day waiting for you to buy something. My issue here is that they don't just robotically sit in their store all day waiting for you to buy something. When I'm trying to build a barn or whatever and Robin is standing 4 feet to the left preventing me to do so, it bugs me more than it probably should. I know Stardew Valley is a slow, relaxing game and it doesn't really need a great sense of momentum or whatever, but can I ask for a little bit of compromise? Like, could the game at least let me buy some seeds off these shelves, or maybe place some kind of delivery order for the stuff I want so I don't have to come back later? I don't know, just an idea. The problem isn't huge to begin with, so I'm not sure why I talked about it for so long. Anyway, making a purchase is only one of the ways you get stuff in this game. There are tons of items you get via other means, and these play a big role in the town's development through the community center. The community center is an old abandoned building that you're introduced to early in the game. Inside of it are these weird looking box things, and each of them contains slots for you to put certain items in. The items it asks for are sorted by group, so there's a bundle to fill with summer crops, a bundle to fill with fish from the ocean, and so on and so on. Completing a mini bundle gets you a small reward like a few seeds, but if you complete a full box of bundles, that's when it gets interesting. Finishing one of these restores a room in the community center to its full glory, and it also updates Pelican Town in some meaningful way. By collecting various in-game items and putting them in the community center, you can gain access to minecarts for fast travel, fix up the greenhouse on your farm, or even unlock a bus to the desert, which has a ton of new content. This is such a cool way to put certain game-specific items to use, and it's also a very smart way to keep players engaged with Stardew Valley for a really long time. It's super satisfying to get your hands on a bunch of cool stuff, then use it to improve part of the town. And once you've played for dozens of hours and completed every single community center bundle, you get... this is kind of awkward, but I've never actually finished the community center before. Look, I'm sorry I have over 100 hours in the game, but there's no way I'm gonna spend another few hours waiting on seasonal fish RNG or some nonsense. I think you get some kind of Junimo servitude deal on your farm, so that sounds kinda cool. When you're that far into the game though, I can't imagine such a feature would be too impactful. Either way, I really like the community center, and I think it adds a ton of variety and longevity to Stardew Valley. Or, if you don't want to go through the hassle of tracking down all the hyper-specific items for the community center, you can just get all the major rewards with money. There's this garbage company called the Joja Corporation in town, and you can buy every major community center perk this way. This is super shady, and it turns the community center into a warehouse instead of a beautiful building, but it's a cool option for people who don't want to put too much work in. I myself have chosen the Joja route on some of my more recent playthroughs since I don't really like the idea of collecting everything again and again. Regardless of how you do it though, you can use your resources to upgrade parts of Pelican Town, and I think that's pretty cool. But now that we've gotten the people in the town out of the way, it's time to delve into the bulk of this review. More than friendships or town upgrades, Stardew Valley is all about making that sweet, sweet money, and there are so many ways to go about doing that. The way I see it, there are 4 main mechanics at play here, 4 pillars of Stardew Valley if you will, and these all masterfully combine to create the ultimate money-making experience. Each of these mechanics are shown explicitly in the game through 5 skills you level up in, and leveling up in these skills is another giant goal in Stardew Valley. You level up any skill just by doing various actions within it, and there are 10 levels to work your way through for each one. Each time you level up a skill, you get some kind of reward, like having your fish be worth more money or something. Much like the community center, these skill tree things do a lot to make Stardew Valley interesting in the long term. They directly encourage the player to do all sorts of stuff, and that's a pretty good game design feature if you ask me. But that's enough about the big picture. Let's really dig into each of the 4 main mechanics one by one to see exactly how complex and deep the money-making system is. The first mechanic I'll be talking about is foraging, and I'll explain why I'm starting here in a minute. Foraging is one of the simplest mechanics at play in Stardew Valley, and it basically refers to any items you find or collect out in the wild. You don't grow forageables, you don't create them, you just harvest the resources from the world around you. Many forageable items are little fruits or berries that you collect in the forested areas around Stardew Valley. Some of these can be used to fill up community center bundles, but they can also be used as food, which I should probably explain now. You see, every time you use a tool or perform certain actions in Stardew Valley, a little bit of your energy meter gets used up. If you run out of energy, you'll pass out, which comes with a number of unwanted side effects. In order to continue working without ending the day, you can refill your energy meter by eating. It's possible to buy or cook food, but that's only really viable in the late game. Early on then, you'll commonly be eating whatever random plants you found around the town, i.e. foraging. Finding food by foraging is only part of the mechanic though, as many forageable goods can't be used for food. Foraging also gets you things like wood, sap, and fiber, all of which are used to craft various machines and products. And yeah, crafting is another thing I should probably explain at some point. It's not really complicated, there's just a little sub-menu thing that lets you craft various in-game items if you have the required resources. You have to unlock most of the recipes by leveling up certain skills or completing some goal, but that's about it. Most of the things you craft are machines or tools of some kind that help you farm, fish, or use some other skill, so crafting is a pretty important part of the game. Crafting items related to farming or fishing really helps you get more money in those areas, and that's all possible thanks to foraging. The reason I talked about foraging first is that it's pretty simple, yet it acts as something of a backbone to the Stardew Valley experience. You don't typically make money off of foraged items directly, but their practical applications like food and crafting impact the game hugely. Foraged items indirectly allow the player to do most of the activities in Stardew Valley, and that's what makes this skill so important. I always used to wonder why foraging got its own entire skill tree, even though it's just like picking up berries or whatever, but now I totally get it. Foraging is the foundation that supports the rest of the game, so it can't be ignored. There is another skill that serves a similar function to foraging, but to explore it we'll have to go deeper. Deeper into the mines! Great joke, I'm hilarious. Anyway, I combined mining and combat into one section of the video, hence why I've awkwardly been switching between saying 5 skills and 4 mechanics in the game. I guess I'll start with combat then, since I really don't think it deserves its own skill or to be part of the game at all. I know that sounds really harsh, but let me explain. The combat in this game is as follows. You can sometimes get progressively more powerful swords or clubs as you go, and you use them to stand still in front of enemies and hit them until they die. That's the entire combat system. The enemies in the mines can hit you, sometimes requiring you to eat food or die from damage, but there's really nothing interesting here. Awkwardly holding still and spamming attacks is literally all you can do, and you don't even get anything special from killing these enemies. Yeah, they drop a few items that can be used to craft stuff, but the game could have easily been changed to work out these items. I don't think it's rocket science to take bat wings out of the lightning rod crafting recipe. The combat is forgettable and boring at best, or awkward and annoying at worst, so I don't see why it's in the game. Thematically, it doesn't fit at all. Stardew Valley didn't need a new action-packed game mechanic, especially not a bad one. I'm sorry, I'll stop ranting now. The combat is the only part of Stardew Valley that I legitimately find bad, so I don't need to dwell on it any longer than this. Let's switch over to the main part of this section, the mining. Much like foraging, you mine resources in the Stardew Valley mine that can be used for crafting machines and stuff. Most notably, you use the mine to get different types of metal that can be used to upgrade your tools, which is really cool. Working your way farther and farther down into the mines is yet another fun thing to work toward over long playthroughs, and you get progressively better and better types of metal ore as you go. Upgrading your tools like this is really satisfying, mainly because it ties two seemingly unrelated aspects of the game together. Oh, mining doesn't seem all that useful to me, I probably won't do it very much. Wait, I can use the metals I get to get a better watering can? Whoa, I can even craft sprinklers to stop myself from needing to water my crops altogether? Heck yeah, I'll go into the mines. Mining is a really satisfying system because it does almost the same thing foraging does. You use the resources you get to improve your efficiency on the farm, which gives it value. Mining gives you different resources than foraging, of course, and it's a little more gamey because of the underground floors you work your way through, but they're both crucial parts of Stardew Valley. Even if foraging and mining don't directly put money into your pocket, building your agricultural empire simply wouldn't be possible if you ignored these two facets of the game. But we've only covered half of the 4 money-making pillars of Stardew Valley, and we haven't even made any money yet. We have the machines, we have the upgraded tools, but what do we use them for? What are the other 2 pillars? Let's start with fishing. Aside from combat, which I wish didn't exist at all, I think fishing is the weakest skill present in Stardew Valley. You get a fishing rod and some upgraded versions of it throughout the game, and you can use these to fish in any body of water you choose. You can add bait or lures to catch fish faster, and different types of fish are present in the lakes, rivers, or the ocean. Once your rod's in the water and a fish bites your hook, you play this little minigame where you need to keep the fish inside of a little green bar. The mechanic itself is fine, it takes a little time to get used to, but it's kinda fun, I guess. After you've caught a fish, you can obviously sell it, or use certain fish to fill in community center bundles. Nothing about fishing is actively bad, but it's not particularly interesting to fish, and the mechanic doesn't tie into the other skills as much as I'd like it to. Most, if not all, of the fishing I do is used to get some extra money for seeds at the beginning of the game, but that's about it. Again, I'm not mad that fishing exists, but there's really no incentive to continue doing it in the late game. You've got the community center, sure, but that just requires getting one of each type of fish ever, and actually completing the fish bundles is a chore. Some types of fish only come out in certain seasons, or when it's raining, or at night, and that's just too much for me. I like the gameplay variety, but that's just way too tedious, and like I said, it's the reason I've never finished the community center. I know some people probably enjoy the therapeutic fishing, and the lofty goals of the community center might be the reason people think it's worth it, but I'm not one of those people. Fishing is a nice way to make quick money in year one, but that's about all I enjoy in it. It also just barely uses the crafting system, which is why I say it doesn't connect to the other skills very much. Okay, there's technically a thing you can do with crab pots, but I've honestly never touched that mechanic. As I understand it, you craft a little box and hope some kind of crustacean gets stuck in it, but not that interesting to me. Either way, fishing is just okay, and I don't think it's that important after the beginning of the game. Now let's move on to the fourth and final pillar of Stardew Valley. Surprising nobody, the main way you get money in Stardew Valley is by farming. You all know that Stardew Valley is basically a farming simulator, but the fact I've made it over 10 minutes without really bringing that up speaks loads about how much other stuff there is to do in this game. I don't have to hold back anymore though, I can finally talk about farming, my favorite part of Stardew Valley. Agriculture is woven into this game's very identity, and there's a lot to unpack here to fully explore the mechanic. I guess I'll start with the lesser of the two forms of farming, animal products. You can have the carpenter build coops and barns around your farm, and these can be filled with several different types of animals. You'll use these to get milk, eggs, wool, that kind of thing, and these products can fetch a pretty high price. Your animals even have a friendship system similar to humans, where they'll produce more high-quality items if they like you. It's this need for constant attention why I've never really gotten into animal farming as much as plants, but there's a ton of money to be made this way if you put the time in. Look once again to my dad, who's gotten hundreds of iridium-quality giant milks from his cattle. Animals can be really profitable since you only have to buy a cow once as opposed to purchasing seeds over and over again, so that's also something to keep in mind. One of the coolest ways to make lots of money off of your animal products or any farmed item is to process them into artisan goods. This is where those crafted machines I mentioned earlier come in, and they can make you a ton of extra money. You can process eggs and milk into mayonnaise and cheese respectively, which raises their value considerably. Doing so takes some time, but if you have the resources to commit to an empire of these artisan goods, you'll make tons of money. So that's animal farming, but no aspect of Stardew Valley is bigger or more important to me than farming plants. There are several types of season-specific seeds to plant throughout the year, and these are a player's primary source of income. To plant a seed, you simply need to hoe the ground where you want to grow it, then water it every day until it's done. Many crops grow into a single plant that leaves an open spot of ground after it's harvested, but others continue producing their fruits or vegetables periodically after they've grown for the first time. As with animal products, you can also process your crops into various artisan goods like wine or jelly, which raises their value at the cost of time. The farming system is really simple on paper, but it's arguably the most complex and satisfying mechanic in Stardew Valley. There's nothing more rewarding than finally getting to harvest your giant field of berries, even outside of the rewards you get for it. It feels great to have all your hard work result in tons of fruits and vegetables, and you'll get absolutely rich off of these crops because of it. Even ignoring the manual labor of watering your plants every day, it can be really engaging to plan out exactly when, where, and how you're gonna plant stuff. There are so many factors to consider, like growth time, farm placement, and weather, that intelligent players will feel rewarded for their mental energy as well. Growing crops is one of those things where you get out what you put in. You could get by with just a few crops planted at the beginning of each season, but if you take the time to intricately plan where everything's gonna go and how you'll water and process all of it, the payoff will be much, much bigger. I think it's pretty clear that I love farming in Stardew Valley, but if I had to point out one flaw with it, I'd say there's not much incentive to grow a variety of crops. Like I said, there are a few varieties of crops to grow within each season, but every part of the year has one type of crop that's more profitable than any other. In springtime, it's cauliflower or strawberries if you can get them. In summer, it's blueberries or starfruit if you have the desert, and in fall, it's cranberries with no real alternative. You can grow other stuff if you want to, but if your goal is to make money, which it is, it's just going to be planting the same crops every season. Yeah, the community center bundles require a little variety, but that's like planting one of each different crop ever. It really isn't much. I get that it would be stupid to have every crop be equally valuable, but what if you could hire yourself out to some out-of-town company to grow other stuff? Like if Walmart would say, hey, I'll give you $50,000 if you grow me 50 pumpkins by the end of the season or something. I don't know, just an idea. It's really satisfying to see an array of colorful crops out in your field, so I wish there was some financial incentive to make me want to do that. Either way, it's not a huge deal, and I still love farming overall. I love making tons and tons of money in any game, and Stardew Valley's farming system does not disappoint in this regard. Whether you're raising livestock or building a cranberry empire, making money in Pelican Town is a fantastic experience. So now I've gone over every major system in this game individually, but as I've mentioned before, almost every mechanic is connected in a brilliant web of good game design. You forage and mine to get tools and machines. Those tools and machines help you farm and fish more effectively. You make money off of farming and fishing, but the items you get can also be used to fill in the community center bundles or build relationships with the townspeople. The game has so many genius systems that are connected to each other so perfectly, and I didn't even talk about everything here. I mostly talked about the stuff that I find significant, but that's what's so beautiful about a game this huge. I spend most of my time growing crops and doing little else, but you might have the most fun raising an army of goats, or making friends with every townsperson, or filling in the museum, and that's great. Stardew Valley is relaxing, it's engaging, its mechanics are cohesive, and you can basically do whatever you want in it. It's a fantastic game that provides an experience I can't recommend enough. Thanks for watching, everyone. I put way too much time into this video, but not nearly as much time as Eric Baroni put into Stardew Valley. Seriously, look it up. This one guy made the entire game. It's kind of amazing. Anyway, remember to tell me your thoughts on Stardew Valley down in the comments below, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a great day.